Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I'm back today with another storytelling tips video. Thank you guys so much for being patient while I was finishing my finals. I'm finally back and I was itching to film another storytelling tips video. So if y'all are new to my channel, this is my favorite legacy family, which is the main family I play off camera and on my channel. It's my favorite family ever, and it's definitely the one I've stuck with the longest. Part of that is because I use the tips that I've told y'all about in past videos and some more tips that I'm going to tell y'all about today. You might notice that I gave Ainsley here a major makeover, and I'll go over more about that in my next Winslow Legacy episode, but it's kind of related to my first tip for today's video, which is to give your Sims quirks, and not just the in-game ones. For example, with Get Famous, like the fame system and stuff like that, there's definitely in-game quirks that you can get, but that's not even what I'm talking about. I'm talking about like personality quirks that maybe you can't even put in the game, but are just like things that you keep in mind as you're playing your sim. Ainsley is a very change-oriented sim, and by that I mean she needs change constantly. And so part of the reason I gave her a wardrobe change and I cut her hair and I dyed it and everything is because of that. Like, part of it is just because I was bored with her outfits, to be honest, so I personally needed a change. I think that Ainsley herself is somebody who would want to make changes like that to her life because she needs that adventure and she needs that change in order to feel happy. So when I'm talking about personality quirks, that's the kind of quirk I'm talking about. So right now, she and her husband are kind of going through relationship problems. Part of like my storyline is the reason they're having these problems is because of that personality of Ainsley's, that she just needs that change. It might seem like I'm talking about the in-game adventurous trait, but that's not even what I'm talking about. Like, Ainsley doesn't even have that because I don't think of her as adventurous, really. It's more so the fact that she's just never satisfied. So these are the types of quirks that I think are super important to give your Sims, and these quirks are more than just like saying your Sim has a quirk and then kind of leaving it at that. Oh my god, it has to be kind of integrated into other parts of your Sim's life. So for example, like I mentioned, the fact that Ainsley and her husband are having issues, I think a major part of that, a major reason, is because of this personality of Ainsley's. Part of the reason she's so high achieving, I mean, she does have the overachiever trait. In my mind, it's more than just this like overachiever trait that's made her accomplish so much. It's actually the fact that she is just never ever satisfied with herself or with other people. So having these little like personality quirks that aren't necessarily a part of the in-game system, I think are super important to just improve your storytelling and add more dimension to your characters. My next tip is to use different social interactions in different ways than they are meant to be used. I use these social interactions in different ways depending on the situation to further my storyline and to kind of think like my characters are actually acting the way I want them to act. Juniper's here, which is perfect timing so I can show y'all what I mean. So Juniper is Ainsley's dad, and they have like a fine relationship, as y'all can tell from the relationship bar, but they're not as close as her and her mom, and she knows about his smoking problem. She obviously is not happy with it at all, and there was one time when Juniper came over and all the kids were here, like they were out here, and Juniper started smoking. I didn't control Juniper and make him do that. I think with base mental, they autonomously do it sometimes. All of that to say, there's no real social interaction where I can say ask to stop smoking, either in game for sure or one that comes with base mental. So if I was playing this off camera or even like for an episode that I was filming, I would probably come to deep thoughts and select something like deep conversation. Having that conversation with a family member is a deep conversation, maybe even a deep personal conversation. Maybe I would worry about baby development. I think this is like from one of the mods I have. I'd probably have Ainsley say something like this, thinking in my mind she's talking about how he's exposing her children to secondhand smoke. Maybe I would have her talk about dreams and be like, Dad, this is getting in the way of like what you actually want to accomplish. I want to help you overcome this. Something like that. Maybe I would even have her come express admiration and be like, you're one of the strongest people I know. I know you can get over this addiction. In small talk, I have asked about health. I might have her come and ask him about how he's dealing with his addiction. Maybe she'll come over here and tell a dramatic story about like the negative side effect and like a story somebody shared about it. So none of the interactions I mentioned are about my storyline, but you can use any social interaction to kind of feed into that. You do have to get creative with it, but I will say, like, if you're not sure what social interaction will really feed into the storyline you're going for, click deep conversation. For me personally, that's kind of like an all-purpose social interaction, because anything can be a deep conversation. So that might help jumpstart your creativity a little, but at the end of the day, you do have to get creative with it and use different social interactions as creatively as you can. And once you do that, you will get super immersed in your storylines. And this leads me to my third tip, which is basically that not every part of your storyline should have to be in your game in order for you to embrace your creativity and make a storyline work. And quite a few of the tips in my last storytelling videos have involved things that aren't directly in the game. Like, some things are, for example, when I talk about changing up traits and aspirations and even like giving your Sims makeovers and stuff like that. Those things are very tangibly in the game. Using socials in different ways isn't necessarily in the game. My first tip about quirks isn't necessarily in the game either. I think it's super important if you're first starting to get into storytelling to get comfortable with the fact that not everything will be in the game. I struggled with this at first, and I was always like looking for a mod or something because I hated just depending on my own creativity. But at a certain point, even the most in-depth mods, like for example, Panda Salmon's childbirth mod, they add so many things to the game. They add items, they add interactions, but those will only go so far as your own creativity will allow them to. For example, maybe your sim chooses the natural childbirth over the surgery machine. Why? Like, why are they doing that? That's not really something that comes with the mod. Like, you can set a preference, don't get me wrong, but why does your particular sim have that preference? If the only reason for a choice is that you as the player prefer certain things, that is going to develop into you always choosing the same things, which is what turns into stagnation and boredom. It's really important to kind of get comfortable with using your own creativity to push boundaries. I myself definitely make choices based on my preferences, but you can't do it every single time. That's where the boredom really comes in, even if you have every single mod under the sun. So getting comfortable with the fact that you are going to have to develop your Sim's personality outside of the in-game traits and aspirations and choices and whatever other buttons you can click in the game is really important to actually developing strong storylines and not getting bored of them. I'm feeling very unsatisfied in our relationship. If you are mean to me while I feel this way, I may have to divorce you. A lack of connection is causing dread of solitude. Encourage your sim to nurture their relationships or learn to enjoy their own company. Okay, I'll deal with that, but let's get to my next tip first. I've talked a lot about backstories on my channel and how important they are, and I firmly stand by that. I think backstories are genuinely one of the most important things you can do for your Sims, but in order for your backstories to actually like improve storytelling and improve your connection to your characters, you have to tie aspects of the backstory into the current life that your Sims are living. My last video on my channel was some storyline ideas. When I was writing them, I was thinking about them as backstories. One of those storyline ideas that I shared was about a Sim who had run away from home and they were trying to make it on their own to start their own business, but they hated the idea of working for another person and they kept getting fired and ended up keeping a job solely because a different Sim took them under their wing. Now, if you pick up that storyline at that point and make that Sim become friendly with the boss and start getting promoted all the time, it doesn't really make sense with the backstory. And that's not to say that a Sim's personality and like relationships can never change or improve, but there has to be reasons that things happen in order for it to be realistic and in order for you to actually feel invested in a storyline that maybe has some drama. Now, on the other hand, if you take aspects of that backstory, such as them hating the idea of working for somebody else, to mean that they never really get a promotion and are always kind of earning like the lowest possible wage, and it takes them a long time to save up because of that, but maybe they like start to work 2 jobs, there's still a lot of ways you can take a backstory. It's not even worth having one if you're not gonna make it a part of your Sim's current story. In this video and in basically all of my tips videos, I give y'all tips based on what I do in my game and the ways that I try to develop really compelling characters and storylines, even just for myself off camera. And it's why I have been playing The Sims 4 consistently for years now without ever getting bored. With that said, I didn't start at this point of being so invested in my characters and my storyline. I would go through phases where I'd play non-stop for like a week and then I wouldn't touch it again for a year. And I think that happens to a lot of people. Even for the tips that I do have, it's taken me a long time to get to this point where I do feel like I know how to get invested in this game and create compelling storylines. So all of that is basically to say, go slow. I've mentioned to go slow before, just in terms of taking your storyline slow and not like trying to run through everything so fast. Beyond that, if you are not used to playing in a certain way, take it slow. You don't have to expect to figure things out right away. I think it's unrealistic to expect that. So take it slow. You don't have to like go 0 to 60 and start playing in a completely different way than you're used to. For example, I mention a lot how I am a very family gameplay oriented player, but that's kind of something I've realized and developed over the course of years. I used to play in a completely different way that was way less storytelling oriented and kind of like challenge oriented, and it's taken me years to just realize that this is my play style and this is what I like to do. So if you're not used to playing the way I play or a different YouTuber plays or anything like that, that's okay, and you can take it slow and build up to it, or take bits and pieces of different play styles and make it your own. I've mentioned this before, but my absolute favorite part of The Sims 4 is the fact that everybody who plays the game plays it differently. So every Sims 4 game looks different, and I genuinely think that is so cool and such a unique aspect of this game. And hopefully my tips help y'all in figuring out a way that you want to play this game and developing a love for your characters the same way I have. With that, y'all, I am going to go ahead and leave this video here. I hope y'all enjoyed, and I really hope that this is helpful for y'all in creating your own storylines and, like I said, in just having more fun in your game. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. Make sure to comment any thoughts or ideas or opinions or anything you have to say down below. I love it when y'all comment. Also, if you are going to be purchasing an EA pack anytime soon, do consider using my code to support me, and consider joining my channel for access to special perks. And with that, I will see you later. Bye guys!
I was just